Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out top 10 biggest moments in British music history.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 biggest moments in British music history.
Alright. I have no idea what they're gonna say. Moments. What moments?
For this list, we'll be looking at most talked about moments or events that have inspired careers and catapulted people into worldwide stardom. If you have a favorite British music artist, make sure you let us know in the comments. Number 10, Beatles Rooftop Concert, 1969.
Yes.
It all happened so fast. Just 5 years earlier, the Beatles decided to grace their US fans with a piece of the mania by appearing on The Ed Sullivan Show. They defined the 60s pop culture by releasing the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. But it all came to an end in 1969 at number 3 Savile Row in central London. On January 30th, the Beatles decided to perform a 42-minute-long impromptu rooftop concert that ended with the arrival of the Metropolitan Police. No one knew it at the time, but this was their very last public performance. What a bittersweet goodbye.
Right, so you've got to put this necessary, alright? I bet we've got 30 minutes.
Okay, now I see what they mean by biggest moments in British music history. I feel like this should be higher on the list because this was a huge moment. Can you imagine being on the streets of London and hearing the Beatles play? I would freak out. Mostly because 2 of them are dead right now, as far as we know. That would really make me question reality. But to be in that time and to hear them playing, hear their sound echoing through the alleyways would be really amazing. It's crazy to think that from the time they performed on Ed Sullivan in 1964 to this concert was only 5 years. They look totally different. It's mind-boggling the amount of change that happened in those 5 years. Okay, that's number 10. These next 9 better be pretty big.
Number 9, the Spice Girls breakup, 2000. If you're a 90s pop baby, this was most likely one of your first big heartbreaks. It all started when Geri Halliwell announced she was leaving the Spice Girls in 1998, just days before their last tour as a quintet.
I was thinking, oh my god, this is the last time I'm gonna sing this with these girls. I can't do it anymore.
Although the 4 remaining members decided to continue performing, they failed to achieve previous levels of success. After releasing their album, Forever, in 2000, the group announced they were going on a hiatus. Fans mourned the breakup, and the entire world waited on their reunion.
Well, we searched for her in the hotel and we couldn't find her. And she'd got herself on a flight and headed back to England.
It finally happened in 2007, 2012, and once again in 2019.
Okay, I cannot identify with this as being a big moment in music history. How long were they together? They formed in 1994. Okay, so they were together for 4 years. Okay, and they got big in 96 with that Wannabe song, If You Want to Be My Lover. So 2 years. Really? If any of you are Spice Girls fans, I apologize, but I don't connect with this. Sorry.
Number 8, Amy Winehouse wins 5 Grammys in one night, 2008. Although these days, British singers like Adele are no strangers to winning multiple Grammys, no one saw this coming. At the time, The Guardian even reported that events such as the Grammys don't typically recognize artists like Winehouse. But she proved she had what it took to make it big when she bagged not 1, not 2, but 5 Grammys in one night. She won Song of the Year, Record of the Year, Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, and Best Pop Vocal Album. Winehouse was visibly shocked as she accepted the award with her mother by her side and said her thank yous.
I remember when that happened. That was a big moment. She made her way into the zeitgeist, for sure. And it's kind of bittersweet, though, because that song Rehab, you know, and then she died from alcohol. Pretty tragic. Great album. Produced by Mark Ronson. Excellent producer. What a voice. Oh my God. Such an amazing voice. Entertaining, compelling, interesting person.
Number 7, Britpop battle for number 1, 1995. Mid-90s, the UK entered another iconic phase as Britpop took over the charts, but there were only 2 bands that were really going at it to reach that number 1 spot. Blur and Oasis released their new singles on the exact same day.
Really? Love Country House.
The battle was intense. People bought one song for the specific purpose of beating the other. However, it was Blur that ended up winning after selling 270,000 copies of Country House. Oasis was not far off with 220,000 copies of Roll With It, but all was well in the Britpop world because just a year later, Oasis went on to perform a record-setting show.
Yeah, I like Country House better. I think Country House is probably my personal favorite Blur song. Great job. Congratulations, Blur. You won. You beat 'em.
Number 6. First Glastonbury, 1972. The popular UK music festival attracted 200,000 people in 2022, but back in 1970, the very first Glastonbury festival was called the Pop, Blues and Folk Festival. That had an attendance of 1,500 people, but it marked the beginning of the epicness we know and love today. Tickets were just £1, and first acts included Steam Hammer, Quintessence, Stack Ridge, Al Stewart, Pink Fairies, and Keith Christmas. Things really took off the following year when the festival first introduced the iconic Pyramid Stage and featured David Bowie as a performer. The festival became an annual event after the 1980s when it also saw its very first TV coverage.
Glastonbury. I've definitely heard of Glastonbury. I've never been, of course. Tickets were £1 each. Isn't that amazing? Looks like they had it this past summer. Arctic Monkeys, Guns N' Roses, Lizzo, Rick Astley, Elton John, Lil Nas X, Blondie. It's become a huge thing. David Bowie was the first big name to perform there.
Number 5. David Bowie debuts Ziggy Stardust, 1971. The spaceman Ziggy Stardust was officially born on February 10, 1972, during the concert at London's Toby Jug pub. David Bowie knew exactly how big Ziggy Stardust would become. The persona was inspired by a mix of eccentric people he'd met or admired in his life, including Vince Taylor. He took the name Ziggy from a random shop he saw while on the train. Toby Jug Pub had an audience of about 60 people who were the very lucky ones to be the first to witness the birth of Ziggy Stardust.
60 people.
3 weeks before the performance, Bowie announced that he was going to be huge, and he was right.
Wow, those 60 people were in for a treat, and they probably didn't even know it at the time. That's amazing. I just reacted to another video that was the top 10 most influential British albums, and David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust album, I forgot the long title of it, but that was number 2. And I was surprised. I sort of forgot about that album.
Number 4. Live Aid, 1985.
Yes.
Held in Wembley Stadium in the UK and the JFK Stadium in the US, charity event Live Aid was one of the biggest concerts the UK has ever seen. Almost 40% of the world's population watched the live stream and proved that music really
40%.
makes people come together. Live Aid had some pretty iconic moments, including the Led Zeppelin reunion and the performances of 2 rock giants, U2 and Queen. Thanks to the concert, albums like Madonna's Like a Virgin and Phil Collins' No Jacket Required even made their way back to the charts. Live Aid eventually raised an impressive $127 million in famine relief for African nations.
Wow, yeah, Live Aid. I know that Queen performance is legendary. It's pretty amazing. They raised $127 million. I feel like Live Aid is something we should do every year, right? It's probably a lot to put together. Who's next?
Number 3. Elton John Comes Out, 1976. In 1976, Elton John announced that he was bisexual, which was the start of his status as an LGBT plus icon.
76.
I had a few friends, I had my cousins and stuff like that, but music was my best friend, and I lived and breathed for it.
This was 6 years after he dated his music manager, John Reid. He told the Rolling Stone magazine that there is nothing wrong with going to bed with same-sex people and that he thinks everyone is bisexual, to a certain degree. He didn't officially come out as gay until his Rolling Stone interview in 1992. Between those years and long after, John became an important music figure to the LGBT plus community and inspired people to live their true version of themselves.
1976. It's easy to forget what things were like back then, but homosexuality, anything other than heterosexuality, was extremely taboo. I can't imagine the kind of crap he had to put up with. What a trailblazer. I mean, even 20 years later in 1996, it was taboo. When Ellen DeGeneres came out, it was a huge controversy. Her show got canceled, and I think it did anyway. It got really unpopular. People stopped watching it, I know that. And he came out in 76. Elton, if you're watching, great job. Funny story, I actually know Elton John. I worked on an album of his. I got to know his band and his crew. Pretty cool guy. Pretty good family of people there. Anyway, Elton, hope you're doing well if you're watching. Amazing. 1976. Wow.
Number 2. Queen releases Bohemian Rhapsody,
Oh.
1975.
Okay.
These days, it's rare to meet someone who hasn't heard Bohemian Rhapsody at least
True.
once in their lives. Bohemian Rhapsody was released as a mock opera and a mix of 3 separate songs written by Freddie Mercury. Queen released the song in 1975 and were warned that it's too long and would never become a hit. Well, those people were proven wrong. Not only did Bohemian Rhapsody become the #1 hit, it also did so twice, with the same version, after it was re-released in 1991.
From
Although
Wayne's
it is
World.
criticized by many, it is generally regarded as one of the greatest rock songs of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could see why a record executive would say the song is too long, but don't forget Hey Jude is 7 minutes. Big hit. Bohemian Rhapsody broke the mold. I would love to know what it was like to be alive back then and to hear that song on the radio for the first time. I would probably think that I had it on the wrong station at first, like this is classical opera or something. Surely some of you watching were alive back then. What was it like? Were you confused? Or, I mean, it's not like this is the weirdest song to ever come out. It's just maybe a little off kilter, not what you would expect. I love when stuff like that happens. Number 2. That was number 2. Okay, what's number 1?
Number 1, John Lennon is killed, 1980. It was the moment that shocked the world. On December 8th, 1980, the news of Lennon's assassination quickly began to spread. Lennon was killed by Mark David Chapman, a fan of the Beatles who was completely mesmerized by Lennon's lifestyle. Chapman planned his act over several months and even met Lennon earlier that day. He remained at the scene, reading The Catcher in the Rye, and later revealed that the act was inspired by a character in the book. Fans were heartbroken, and reports state that at least 3 people ended their lives because of John Lennon's passing.
Wow. Yeah, what a tragedy. I could see why that would be number 1. If that happened after I had become a Beatles fan and learned about John Lennon, I would be devastated. What a horrible thing. I mean, it's kind of like the death of the 60s in a way. I kind of don't know if I should tell this story, but I'm going to. Maybe I'll edit it out later. I had the pleasure of working with Yoko Ono back in the year 2000. I was working at a recording studio in New York, and we were remixing some of John Lennon's, I say we, they were remixing some of John Lennon's solo work, and I was just a general assistant at the studio, so I wasn't actually working on the mixes, but I would do things like mop the floors, make coffee, that sort of thing. Apparently, the studio manager thought that I have a calming presence. And so one day the studio manager called me up to his office and he said, Yoko Ono's coming to the studio. I want you to be with her, be her gopher, get her anything she wants, just be with her and, make sure she has all her needs met. And then at the end of the day, after they made the changes to the mixes or they had something for her to listen to, they would burn a CD, and I got to take the CD to the Dakota building and give it to Yoko. So that was really surreal because I know that where I would go is exactly the place where John Lennon was shot. And I was doing something for Yoko, giving her a CD. So it was surreal. I expected Yoko to be very demanding and weird and just odd, but y'all, she could not have been more friendly. She was the sweetest. She was a delightful person to be around. I didn't even need to be there, really. It was an honor to be in the room with her. And Yoko, if you're watching, much love to you. I hope you're doing well. I'm reluctant to put that in this video because I don't know. So anyway, I guess I just bring that up because that's my personal connection to this tragedy. Ugh. Anyway, what a bummer to leave it on. I would say this number one is rightfully placed at number one. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope this doesn't bum you out. But look at the joy on his face. Look, he's seeing a bunch of people about peace. This is a great moment for him. And Yoko's there too. They're having a lovely time. He had a wonderful life. Let's remember the happy times. Anyway, just want to say love you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.